Welcome back, everybody. So this is going to be step 4, which is irregular shapes. This is kind of where we're going today. This is where we're going to end up. This is our goal for our notes. So let's go ahead and begin. You are going to need a blank sheet of paper. You're also going to need a triangle and just any kind of pencil will do, mechanical or regular. So to do our irregular shapes, it is going to be a little different today. We're going to break the rules, but we're going to start off the same way. So we are going to start off by drawing a horizontal line going through the middle of our paper. Don't forget to line up the triangle with the edge of your paper to ensure that you get a nice straight line, just like that. Also don't forget to draw light. I'm drawing a little bit harder just so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and put the vanishing point in the middle just to make it easy on you. And today when we're doing this activity, if you're the type of person that struggles with perspective drawing, I would try to draw the same exact shapes that I'm making. So try to make them pretty similar to what I make them. Okay? All right, so before we begin, we got to label our paper. So first name, last name in the top right hand corner, whatever your period number is, and this will be notes number 4. And then eventually on the back side we're going to do your final copy. So we are just going to take notes today. And I'm going to start off with some easier shapes, and we're going to work our way to a little more difficult shapes. So the first shape I'm going to make, I'm just going to make a weird, funky, irregular shape. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my triangle, and I don't have to line it up with the edge of my paper or anything because it is irregular. It's out of the norm. I'm just going to take my time to line up all of my lines though, so they look nice and clean. And again, if you're somebody who struggles with perspective drawing, just try to make it similar to mine. So I'm just taking the edges of my triangle and I'm making a weird funky shape. Make sure you're drawing light so it's easy to erase. And I just drew just kind of a weird funky shape. Now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to look and see what points can go to the vanishing point. So I'm going to start up here and I'm going to line up my triangle with a vanishing point. And as long as it doesn't go through my shape, I should be okay. So if I line up this point with this point, we can go ahead and draw that through because it doesn't go through my shape. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. And I'm going to do this one too. So I'm just taking all my points to the vanishing point. Take your time to line up your points with the vanishing point. If you do make a mistake, just erase it. If you're drawing light, it will be very easy to do. And then this guy here, when I try to line up my point with my vanishing point, depending on what yours looks like, it might be slightly different than mine. That's what mine ends up being. So now we're ready to cut off our shape. When we did boxes, we did horizontal and verticals. For irregular shapes, we are going to do parallels. So to do parallel lines, I'm just going to take the edge of my triangle and line it up with the edge of my shape, just like that. And I'm going to move it in a parallel fashion just a little bit and mark it, just like that. If you went over your line, it's okay, just erase it, just like I am right now. So that's my first cut. Then I'm just going to go all the way around my shape and do the same thing. So I'm going to line it up with the edge of my shape right here. And I'm gonna move it down, and this time I'm gonna meet where I just did my first cut, like that. Now, if you notice, there's a point right here. If you're doing your irregular shapes and you realize you messed up or you missed a point, it's okay. I'm gonna take that point to the vanishing point real quick. And this can be easily fixed. And I'm gonna erase that excess line. So if you had any oopsies, it's okay. You can always erase. Now we're gonna line it up with this edge. So I'm lining up with the edge of my shape right here, and I'm going to move it in a parallel fashion until I meet my cut right there. If for some reason you're like, oh, I don't like it, I need to move it over, you can just erase it and start over. All right, I'm gonna line this one up with the edge of my shape, move it in a parallel way, just like that. And then now I'm on to my last one. So I'm gonna line it up with the edge of my shape. And this time I'm gonna have to eyeball it. So I'm moving it in a parallel way. I'm eyeballing it to make sure that it's about the same width as my other ones, just like that. And now I'm gonna go ahead and erase all of my excess lines. So make sure that you take your time to erase your excess lines. You don't want to accidentally erase too much. And if that irregular shape was a little difficult for you, on this next shape, just kind of copy exactly what I'm doing. If you want to challenge yourself and try your own shapes, you're more than welcome to do that on your notes and on your final copy. All right, so we're on to our next shape. We're gonna do a shape, an irregular shape down here this time. So this one I'm gonna make a little bit easier. So make like a V shape. And I'm just taking my triangle and making some weird angles. Just like that. So now what I gotta do is I gotta take every single point to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna take this point to the vanishing point, this point, this inside point here to the vanishing point, and this point here to the vanishing point. Now I can try to see if any of these other points would go to the vanishing point. If I try to take this point going to the vanishing point, it's gonna go through my shape, so I'm not gonna see it. This point here goes through my shape, I'm not gonna see it. This point here goes through my shape, I'm not gonna see it. So this one turned out to be a really easy one. So now what I'm gonna do is line up my triangle with the edge of my shape, just like this, and move it just a little bit parallel and cut it off. And I'm gonna do it with this line too. So I'm gonna line it up with the edge of my shape, move it parallel until I meet that first cut, and go ahead and cut that off. And erase your excess lines. Don't forget to draw super light so that it's easy to erase. Just like that. Okay, on to our next irregular shape. So I'm just gonna kind of go in a clockwise fashion. So I'm gonna do one right here. So I'm gonna make a weird funky shape. And again, if you struggle, you can make the same shape as me. If you like kind of a challenge, you can make your own shapes for your notes. I just want you to have a good understanding of how this works. And eventually, the reason why we're learning this is because eventually you are going to have to do your name, which is irregular shapes. So I'm just going all the way around, making a weird, funky shape. Alright, so now that I have my weird funky shape going on, I'm going to take every single point to the vanishing point. I'm going to check them all. So I'm going to start up here. This point goes to the vanishing point. This point here, yes, goes to the vanishing point. This point here goes to the vanishing point. And again, I'm going all the way around my shape and just checking every single one. And then this point here goes to the vanishing point. Now I also want to check these back ones too. So I'm going to check this point right here. Nope, it goes through my shape. How about this one? So let me line that triangle up. Oh, it does. So let's go ahead and take that point to the vanishing point, but I'm gonna stop before it goes inside my shape. And then I'm gonna make sure this last one, nope, it goes through my shape, so I'm not gonna draw it. So I'm gonna do this one first. So I'm gonna line up my triangle with the edge of my shape, and I'm just gonna go a little bit and cut it, erase my excess lines. And then I'm gonna just go around my whole shape. So if you struggle with cutting your shape, if you can visualize one side, then that helps you with finishing all the other parts. So this one's really easy, and I'm gonna start off with that one. I'm gonna line up my triangle with the edge of that shape, move it just a little bit. I'm trying to match the depth on that one, and go ahead and cut it. If it doesn't look parallel, make sure that you erase it and redo it. Line it up, the triangle up to my shape, move it in a parallel fashion, and meet my cut, just like that. And then the last one, so line it up with the edge of my shape, move it parallel, and cut. Okay. And then we're gonna erase our excess lines. So after a while, it starts to feel repetitive. You do the same exact steps for every single shape. And we are about halfway done. All right, so the next one we're gonna do is up here. I'm gonna actually challenge you this time. We're gonna do one directly above the vanishing point. And as you know, when you are doing a shape directly above, it's gonna look a little funky and different. So I want you to get some experience with that. And this time I'm going for kind of a, I would say maybe an arrow-like shape. And if you struggle, make sure that you try to create a shape kind of like mine. It's a little bit easier. If you'd like a challenge and you want to create your own shapes for your notes, that's fine too. So I'm just taking my triangle and making a funky shape. This one's gonna kind of look like an arrow. just like that. If you have any excess lines, make sure you erase them. And now same old steps. So I'm gonna take every single point to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna take this point to the vanishing point. I'm gonna take this point here to the vanishing point. I'm gonna take this point here to the vanishing point. And again, if you mess up, you can just erase it. Like I went a little too far inward. I'm just gonna redo that one. That's much better. And then I'm gonna make sure that these points don't go to the vanishing point at all. So this one does not, this one does not, maybe this one far away does. Yes, it does. So it's going to get just a tiny little line, and I'm gonna stop before it goes inside my shape. And then I'm gonna check these guys too. Nope, nope, and nope. All right, so I think I'm gonna make kind of a thinner cut. So maybe I'll start over here. Same thing. I'm gonna line up my triangle with the edge of my shape right here. And I'm gonna move it to where it's a pretty thin cut, like that. Now, if you made your depth a little bit thicker, you might not have to cut that. But I wanted to make sure that mine had a cut, because I didn't want mine too thick. Now I'm gonna match that thickness on these sides. So I'm gonna line it up with the edge of my shape, move it in a parallel fashion, keeping my eyes on how thick this is. I'm gonna try to match it. And then I'm going to cut this side. So this side's kind of thin. I'm gonna line it up with the edge of my shape, move it in a parallel fashion, and cut it right there. And I'm gonna go ahead and erase all my excess lines. Take your time with erasing. Make sure you don't erase accidentally your irregular shape. All right, so that is a special irregular shape above the vanishing point. As you notice, you can notice the front of it and also the bottom sides. We got two more boxes left, so we're gonna put them on the vanishing point. If you are afraid to overlap, you can just make your irregular shapes just a little bit smaller. I'm gonna do that because I know that a lot of you are beginners. So I'm just gonna take my triangle and I'm making just an angular shape with my triangle. You do not have to make the same exact irregular shapes as me, but if you struggle, definitely try to do what I'm doing. This one's rather simple. I didn't go too crazy on this one. All right, so here's my irregular shape. The horizon line is going through it right now, so before I get confused, I'm definitely going to erase that. It's an imaginary line anyway, so I don't need it. And same exact thing, I'm gonna take every single point to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna take this point to the vanishing point, this point here to the vanishing point, this point here to the vanishing point. And I just want to point out right here is the horizon line. So if that's confusing to you, you can go ahead and erase that. It's just an imaginary line. You don't need it. We're going to take this point here to the vanishing point. And then I got to check my other points. So this one does not go to the vanishing point because it's behind my shape. And then let's try this top one here. Yes, this point goes the vanishing point, just like that. So now we're going to cut off our irregular shape. I'm going to start up at the top. You can kind of start wherever you want, but I find the tops and bottoms are usually easier. Line up your triangle with the edge of your shape. Move it parallel. Make your cut. And then we're just going to go all the way around. So line it up. Move it parallel so it meets your initial cut. And just keep going all the way around. If for some reason like they don't exactly meet, which happens a lot, just erase it. Hopefully you're drawing nice and light. And redo it. I make mistakes all the time, but it's important that you fix them when they happen. Oops, sometimes you mess up twice. Erase that again. If you don't like the way something looks, definitely fix it. Much better. All right, this side, line it up, move it, cut it, and then the last side. So we're gonna line it up, move it in a parallel fashion, and cut it. Erase your excess lines. Make sure I can't see your lines, so you might have to get all those. All right, last irregular box. Oh, I'm gonna erase this one too. Don't worry if you accidentally erased your whole horizon line, that's fine. You can always draw it back in if it bothers you. All right, so I got one last irregular box to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw that in. Hopefully this is feeling easier. It will feel easier the more you practice. So the more you practice, the easier this is going to be. All right, I'm going to go ahead and erase my horizon line going through my shape. If it bothers you, you can go ahead and erase this one too. And we're going to do all the points to the vanishing point. So take your triangle and line everything up with your vanishing point. I kind of stopped right there on that one. And then I'm gonna make sure it doesn't, none of the other points go. That one doesn't go because it goes through my shape. And that one doesn't go because it goes to my shape. All right, I'm gonna cut this off now. So I'm gonna line it up with the edge of my shape right here. I'm gonna move it in a parallel fashion, cut it off. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the top part here. So I'm gonna line it up with the edge of my shape and do a parallel cut there. If it looks funky, it probably is wrong. So always just feel free to ask me if something looks okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and erase my excess lines. Just like that. So for your notes, when I look at your notes, I should see 2 irregular shapes above the horizon, 2 on the horizon, and 2 below the horizon. So these are your notes. You're gonna use your notes to do your final copy. Your final copy, all you have to do, turn it over, write your first name, your last name, whatever your period number is, and final number 4. And on your final copy, you are going to do the same thing. You can do different irregular shapes, but you need to have 2 above, 2 on, and 2 below the horizon. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me.